In 1996, Paramount Pictures released a film based off the brand hit series Mission Impossible, starring Tom Cruise, Jon Voight, and Ving Rhames. This film is directed by Brian De Palma and is a exciting start to the Mission Impossible franchise. It is about an American agent by the name of Ethan Hunt who is under suspicion of being disloyal, a mole in his organization. And so he has to go on this, dare I say, impossible mission to find the real spy and bring them to justice without help of his organization. We're going to talk about this film and if you, as a Christian, should watch this movie right now. Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. I am your host Tim and we exist to help Christians live in the world, not of the world, by of course utilizing our convictions in the movies and shows we watch. Mission Impossible is rated PG-13 for some intense action sequencing. So we're going to dive into some of the reasons why it's named PG-13. If you as a Christian should watch this film, we'll discuss any theological themes that might be present in this film, as well as a personal review from yours truly. Without further ado, let's head over to the Christian conviction meter. And this, of course, is split into 5 categories. We have violence and gore, we have lust, we have substance abuse, we have, of course, frightening and horror-esque images, intense sequencing, and of course profanity. Let's go ahead and start off with violence. There are a few moments here that are pretty violent. I mean, it is an action film. So there is going to be violence, there's going to be punching, there's going to be intense sequencing, explosions, stuff like that, and that is all present within this film. The thing that does separate this film compared to your run-of-the-mill kind of action movie is the fact that this film does have a little more blood than you might expect from, say, other franchises in the PG-13 realm. This does have moments where a character is shot and stabbed and blood does come from that. And so if you are prone to not liking the sight of blood, this probably isn't the movie for you to watch because of those things. At the same time, in terms of just other action sequences within that, it's pretty run-of-the-mill. Of course, there is explosions with people inside, so there are those things. But again, in terms of violence and gore, I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. Of course, 5 being extreme, 0 being none at all. So it's going to be a 3 out of 5 for violence and gore. Moving on to lust, there is not anything explicit. I do want to state that out of the fact. No one's wearing anything provocative or no one's missing any clothing. And of course, there isn't any, nudity in this film whatsoever. There is some kissing. There is a woman who appears to be dead who is wearing more PJ kind of underwear-esque clothing. It's nothing super egregiously revealing. So there is that. Ethan Hunt's Tom Cruise's character, he also does like a TSA kind of check pat down on a woman. So there is that as well. There is, of course, a discussion about coveting your friend's wife and stuff. It's just verbs. It's nothing that actually happens within the film. It's just phrasing that is used and talked about. But again, there's nothing explicit in this film in terms of this category, which is why I only give it a 1 out of 5 here on the CCM. Moving over to substance abuse, there is some smoking of tobacco at the beginning of this film. One of the characters does smoke, but there really isn't much other than that first initial sequence in terms of using cigarettes, stuff like that. There is some alcohol in this film though. Towards the end of the film, there is beer shown as kind of a celebratory drink, as well as, of course, there is some drunk people in this film, but they're not like mean drunk or angry drunk, but you can tell they're very loopy. So there is those things there. For that reason, also a 1 out of 5 for this category. Moving over to profanity, there is a decent chunk of profanity in this film. Just to give you some of the words that are used, hell is mentioned. The DA word is used a good chunk of the time. Even God DA is used. The SH word is used. SOB is used. The A word is used as well, and that's pretty much about it. So there is a decent amount of profanity. So if you don't want younger viewers that you may have, obviously retaining those words and using them, then, I would suggest avoiding this film. For that reason, I am going to give this a 3 out of 5. Just to be on the safer side. I would lean more towards a 2, but I'd rather be safer than sorry for, of course, you and your family watching this film. So for that reason, it is going to be a 3 out of 5. Lastly, we move into the intense sequencing, the horror sequencing. Now, luckily, if you're not a fan of horror, like myself, there is no horror contained within this film. So whoopee on that regard. There's nothing horror about this movie, and so we can safely just say hooray, don't have to worry about it. There is some intense sequencing in this film, though. There are multiple deaths within this film. Like I said, there's a good chunk of blood used in this film, specifically when someone is stabbed, when someone's shot. Blood is used in regards to that. There is explosions with people inside and a part of the explosions. There also is, of course, a death early on in the film where we see how he dies, but we don't see exactly his death. We don't see that on screen, but we see what he is about to encounter. He's about to be impaled in some way, shape, or form. I want to be loose with this, A, for spoilers, but also B, just in case of, those of you who might be on the more sensitive end with people dying in these films. So again, for that reason, I am going to give this another 3 out of 5. Again, just to be on the safe end here. I do also want to say this before we continue on. There is a Bible that's kind of shoved off a table. Again, that might prone you away from watching this film. But speaking of the Bible, let's talk about some theological themes. And there isn't any. There's no theological themes, but I do appreciate how much the Bible is used in this film. It is used very heavily. It's a plot point within this film, not the Bible and the gospel specifically, but the Bible in terms of using the book of Job as kind of a establishing talking point, and the book of Job is used as a way of communication throughout this entire film. So there is that. I appreciate it, but again, there's nothing gospel centric. It's not moving Christianity forward, but it is nice to see the Bible being used and represented in this film. Lastly, let's wrap this up with a personal review. Overall, this is an enjoyable movie. It's a fun, action, semi-intense mystery thriller. It lives up to his name because a lot of these things are pretty impossible. Like, realistically, they're pretty impossible. But it's still a fun MacGuffin story. That from beginning to end does have some solid action beats. There are things that this movie does kind of help to push forward in terms of the action genre. It's a fun new addition that spawned now going on 7 sequels in May. It'll, of course, be potentially the final Mission Impossible film, but who really knows? Overall, this is a pretty fun time. It is, of course, a film of the 90s. Its age is definitely shown in technology, in just some of the dialogue and language, and of course, just some of the CG as well shows a bit of its age, but it's still pretty fun. I know there's some people, especially for us in the Christian community, who may not be a big fan of Tom Cruise just because of what he personally believes in, but he's a pretty solid actor in this film. But again, if you're not a fan of Tom Cruise, then you don't have to watch this film. Overall, I had a pretty good time. This is a film series I enjoy, and I'm excited to get to the chance to review as we go through just the next several months leading up to, of course, Final Reckoning, the potential final last film of Mission Impossible. But overall, I'd give this a 8.6 out of 10. It's pretty fun and an enjoyable time in the movies. Let me know your thoughts on Mission Impossible down in the comments below. Do you have any questions on the film? Also, feel free to let us know, or any movie suggestions that you want to see us review here on the channel. We'd be happy to take a look at some of that stuff. If you're new around here, I want to say a very special welcome to you. If we are a helpful resource for you in terms of finding good movies and shows to watch, utilizing your convictions so you can pursue Jesus better, then consider hitting that subscribe button and joining our community here on YouTube. And if you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate the thumbs up. It just helps send us out into the algorithm and allows more Christians to use us as a resource. Speaking of resources, I will be linking the IMDB parent guide down below if you want a more detailed, comprehensive list that is available to you there. I highly recommend using it. I think it's a very, very solid resource. Thank you all so much for spending time out of your day to spend time with me and this channel. We truly appreciate it. And we will see you all in the next one. But before you go, there are a few recommendations that YouTube is suggesting for you to take a look at based off this video. So go ahead, join us over there. We'll see you all in the next one.